welcome to the stage, guys. So, obviously, Lenny, last night we were enjoying your fabulous hospitality over at the Aviva Stadium, or at least 121 of us were. And then Kate, this is actually a bit of an embarrassing one. I did a podcast interview on Be a Good Sport, and I had to say who my role model is in the industry, and it was Kate. And I said, I think it's Beavan, but I'm not quite sure. And then I got a message saying it is Beavan, rhymes with heaven. So, and, you know, neither of these two people really need an introduction. You know, sort of Kate, I'm sure many of you know, I think it was, what was it, 20 years at Formula One? Oh my gosh, 25 with Formula One, with Bernie Ecclestone at the start there, not sure. And then Lenny, obviously you've been a chef here as well at Croke Park, so the two of you know a thing or two about hospitality. So just to start, Kate, obviously the traditional model at sort of sports events and other major events has been to separate hospitality and food and beverage. But we're seeing an evolution and a change there. So perhaps you can just speak a bit to that.
I think the traditional model, and I think a lot of the sports that I've worked with, still stick with this traditional model of separating hospitality from the fan F&B. I think this model needs changing, and it is changing for various reasons. One is that the audience is changing. I think you only have to look at the Formula One as an example of how you can radically change your audience over a very short period of time. You look at what Drive to Survive did. But I think every sport has now got a different audience to the one it had 10 or 20 years ago, driven by social media and COVID. If your audience is changing, and the demographic and the type of your audience is changing, then you need to change the products with it. And what we've seen and what I've seen is, and we'll talk about the food side of it, but you know, things are very different to the way they were 10 or 20 years ago with the fan going to a sport event or a music event. The products haven't, apart from some notable exceptions, changed that much. You look at the taste in food, the VIPs used to want to have poached salmon and lobster and a sit-down lunch. It's the VIPs now who want Vietnamese street food, and it's the fans down in the stands who want a Wagyu burger. So tastes in food have changed radically, but also changing tastes of the audience. Technology has allowed us to move on. So we don't need to now artificially separate a fan ticket over there and buy some food from your food court and hospitality over there. What the market wants and is demanding is much more flexibility than that. So, for example, all-inclusive. All-inclusive is a theme that's coming. We trialled it in Formula One. We trialled it at the Vegas Grand Prix, and it was super efficient. But to do that, you need to unsilo your business, and you need to implement really good integrated technology to be able to do that. And I think, finally, the experiences economy. What we built in Formula One and what we realized was that a ticket is no longer enough. You need a ticket plus the experience. We created new revenue streams literally out of fresh air by taking tickets and premiumizing them. And we created a product called F1 Experiences, where we go and acquire the tickets. They're not our tickets. We go and acquire them for 24 races, and we add behind-the-scenes experiences to them. We started that in 2017. That is now going to hit 400 million of revenue. And that is just on that delta between taking a ticket and adding premiumized experiences to it. And the key to that is to do it across all price points and scale it up. So even the fan in the lowest grandstand ticket price band will premiumize. A proportion of fans at every single event will premiumize their tickets, whether you're sold out or not. That's what we learned from it, and that's guaranteed, almost guaranteed, bankable revenue.
Obviously, Lenny, Kate mentioned there about the changing tastes. Obviously, as Culinary Director for Aramark, sitting over, obviously, both Aviva and then the
Levy.
Levy, sorry.
I have to correct you. It's just, I couldn't let that go.
Yeah, sorry, Levy. Yes, but how are you changing your offering, and what changes are you seeing in stadium hospitality at Levy? And obviously, I know you sit over not only Aviva Stadium but also the Convention Centre Dublin.
Yeah, we have lots of venues in UK, Europe, and in Ireland now. The changes, they're absolutely huge. But what we tend to do is just focus on a lot of things. But on top of our list, we look at our sustainability, right? And we really feel that within venues, within stadia, clients and guests, that's what they want, right? So what does that mean to the fan? It basically means that we have to be diverse in our offering. It's not like years ago when people kind of went to stadia or went to fan events and ended up just having kind of just a stodge that was expected. That's not expected anymore. And I would say that we look at this changes from a sales level. And I think from a culinary point of view, I want to be talking about the food. But to talk about the food, you really have to impact the sales and how you're selling it and what the venue wants. And it's a complete partnership. There's no point having a venue that doesn't really care about the punters. Now, they're not going to tell you that, right? But there's no point having a partnership like that. It has to be adjoined and it has to be aligned. So from a sales perspective, you have to change the way that the corporate experience wanted. And I agree with Kate there. A lot of the times, people don't want the 3-course sit-down meal, right? They have the starter, the main course, and dessert. You have to be creative at the first stage of the process, which is the stage that the chef's not at, which is something that Levy tried to do. They tried to bring the chef to the fore and influence how the venue, how the client wants to sell the event. So, for example, we have lots of different innovations and all that type of stuff, and it would just take too long to go into them all. But we have something kind of like a chef's table, and it kind of is what Kate said there about that all-inclusive package, and that comes down to the sales process. So, what the customer really wants. I'm sorry, forgive me if this was already said numerous times during the day. I was at an event, so I've literally just got here an hour ago, but what the customer wants is not to be sitting down like you all are there. You want to be moving around, you want to be mobile, you want to kind of interact, you want to have fun, and you want it to be a more interesting, engaging experience. So from a change point of view, we focus on sustainable food, which is paramount. It's through the company. We're not going to change the policy in 10 years' time. So that's paramount. Our disposables, all that type of stuff, we just incorporate it in. We align with the venues, and we come up with interesting, creative menus that the people want. But in saying that, when you get down to the fan level, the experience is totally different as well. We now engage, not just Levy, but many companies are looking at the street food concepts. People are expecting more. There's also, they're coming to the stadium if they can't get served. They have more money in the pocket. So it's up to us to kind of extract that money at every single level.
And Kate, you sort of touched on it very briefly there earlier, but how are you using technology to deliver on hospitality and fan F&B and this whole new experiential?
I think you use technology in two ways. First of all, you need technology to drive insights. So I'll give you an example of a company I've worked with for many years at Silverstone, Freeman's, who do all of the public F&B, but not the hospitality. Now, what they do is they link up every single point of sale terminal, and they have live data coming from that. This is really, really valuable data for anyone who's running an event, because you can see a lot of things that you wouldn't necessarily see. I know I sold X number of tickets to this country, but you don't always know who the boots on the ground are. I can get the data on exactly where everyone who is in my ground has come from. I can get data on what they prefer to eat and drink. I can get data on timings of where they are in the stadium. That allows me then to create new products. What does every stadium want? What does every event want? They don't want everyone leaving at the same time. If you implement a really comprehensive and integrated technology, then you can start to create products like a pop-up discount in my merchandise, or you can have a cocktail hour in my pop-up bar in the fan zone that will draw people to that place when you want them. You can control the footfall better whilst at the same time creating great guest and fan experiences. So that's one use of technology, to create the data. The second use of technology is to try and integrate that data. So if you can link ticketing and you can link your hospitality, and you can link your fan apps all together, and your merchandising, then you could start to really play and create new products. So for example, and this is what we were talking about here, the fusion of F&B and hospitality. Why, as a sports fan, do I have to make a decision weeks out on whether I want to just go into the grandstand and maybe buy some food from the vending area, or whether I want to buy some hospitality? Right? The consumer doesn't want to be forced to make that binary choice, and they don't want to be forced to make it weeks out. What they want is the ability to go to a sport event and say, I'm buying grandstand tickets, but guess what? When I'm in there's a pop-up restaurant and I can book myself in there. Or they'll say, at that quiet bit of the stadium that we're not using very much, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to create an all-inclusive family zone. Who's been to sporting events when you're trying to take your kids there and they're running around, all they can see is, a load of knees around them. There's nowhere to sit down. We want to attract more families. We want to attract, mum, dad, and the kids, rather than mum coming and dad staying at home, or the other way around. So expand your market. But you can only do that, I think, if you are implementing really good technology that allows you to be agile with your products. And then you'll get to a stage where you will have a venue where there is not that artificial distinction about whether I buy a grandstand ticket 3 months out or whether I buy hospitality. And in hospitality, I'm stuck with a 3-course menu that I may not have chosen to have. So I think that's the way things are going. Things are going into breaking down our product lines and merging them and not having these binary choices anymore. I would add one thing. What it takes is a look at the business. Because what I most often see, and I experience this when creating F1 experiences, is there are too many silos in the business. So, and even your contracts. So you may have a contract with your hospitality that would exclude you doing a pop-up unless it was with them, or an all-inclusive. Where does that fit contractually? How does your head of hospitality think about a product that he thinks might or she thinks might be cannibalizing if you put something in the fan area? Those are all things that need deconstructing, and they're artificial and they're just barriers, and you can get rid of them. But I think that's where it's going. My feeling, and everything I've seen that's successful, is about utilizing great technology, which is not a cost, it's an investment, and it pays back. From that, you can create new products, and you can give the new audience, or the way the old audience is evolving, what they want. We want last minute, we want flexibility. I want all-day grazing. I don't want all-day grazing, I want pub food. But I want those things when I want them. I don't want to be forced into that decision too early.
So, sort of obviously, Kate's touched on, obviously, everything is now, people demand a much higher product. So how do you go about, what is your approach to then delivering this now varied menu? Okay,
well, look, when anyone comes into a stadium, they just look at what they're going to eat, right? So they get something and they realize, oh, this was good, this was bad, whatever. It's actually quite complicated to make sure, and we start off at the venue process. So a lot of the venues can be old. It's very rare that you're going into a brand new venue. So there's a responsibility, not only on the hospitality partner, but on the venue itself for considerable investment or a joint profit share. So that has to be thought about from the start. But in venues like Tottenham, if anyone's ever been, and they created fan zones. The food offering is literally like they have wonderful facilities. One, to cook the product, and two, to deliver and serve at a fast rate. So items that we are always innovative and creative is now, I kind of feel that people just want to eat, I'm going to call it dirty food. A hot dog is no longer what they want, unless it's fully loaded with your bacon bits, your crispy onions, your sour cream, and some cheese sauce on top of it. Because they're also looking for that Instagrammable moment. And that's the key, because if you have one area where it's doing like loaded waffle fries or popcorn chicken and stuff, where it's not just in an individual item. So I'm kind of trying to focus, and within Levy ourselves, are focusing on sustainable foods that are fully loaded.
And obviously, competition's fierce. With you, with both.
Our mark.
Oh, sorry. It took me a minute to get that one. Sorry. It's okay. It's been a long day. But yeah, the competition nowadays, it's not just from other venues. It's, people can decide, actually, I want to spend my money going to a restaurant. I want to spend my money, I want to get on a plane. I want to do this, that, the other. So when it is such a competitive market, how do you stand out from the crowd?
Well, firstly, from a culinary point of view, your staff has to be skilled, has to know what they're doing, has to be fully trained, so that's paramount. What you do, we believe that sustainability and ordering food from our local suppliers, our food provenance, our story, our sustainability issues, all of that's critical for us. That's what we believe in, and that's what we're delivering. We always have really good chefs working together, trying to create new menus, interesting experiences, and really, that's it.
I would say, and I might be just about the only person in the room who has nothing to sell. I'm not selling anything to anyone here. I'm just saying, based on my experience, it's this, that I think finding the right partners to help effect change is one of the most important things you can do. Because once you find the right partner, whether it's on the F&B, the catering, the full culinary experiences, whether it's fit out, whether it's technology, and you can build a level of trust with them, then all things are possible. I think some of the things that we did that had the most impact when I was there at Formula One were things that we could not have done without full trust in our partners. So my advice would be, we have to change. If you are doing the same thing you did last year, you're going backwards. The audience is changing faster every year, year on year. Tastes are changing faster every year, year on year. I think if you for that, then the business strategy should be to be agile. And to be agile, you need to invest in your technology, and you need to find partners who you trust, and trust long term. Controversial, I fundamentally don't believe in retendering contracts too often, because you build up trust with a partner, and that trust will allow you to be agile.
And, sort of what's next? What trends are you seeing? Where do you think the industry is headed?
I just did a trend report, and it was kind of like, it's kind of a little bit futuristic, and cultured meats. This is kind of like a mega trend that I'm kind of looking at. It's all about reducing. I think plant-based is going to get stronger, just with the demographic of the audience. With Zoomers coming in, I think coffee experience is going to be paramount. When you look at kind of coffee shops are really busy, and then when you go to stadiums, you don't really see coffee shops, or you don't see. But I think there's a big market there to actually expand. I know everyone focuses on the beverage experience because everyone just wants to lash into the pints, which is fair enough. But the audience is getting more diversified, so you have to cater for it, whether we like it or not. And I also think that, putting the chef forward or putting mobile units like live cooking stations into areas that I call dead space, where they don't generate revenue. You can have a live interactive cooking station. You can do Justine Bao buns or, something like that. And you know what? It's generating a sale in a space that wasn't there.
And Kate, same question.
I think in the sports, certainly in the sports side, which I know best, and a little bit on music as well, the theme I see coming is all-inclusive. So whether that's the entire stadia or venue, or whether it's segregating bits of a venue, maybe breaking down your audience and saying that's our lifestyle, all-inclusive, and the food offering in there is suitable for that, or whether it's family, and the food is there for that audience. So I think all-inclusive is coming, and it's been really interesting to see how the economics of that work out, actually. I think experience-based products will win every time. The days of just buying a grandstand ticket, for the core audience, is probably enough. But if you want to grow that core audience, bear in mind that in the sports industry or the sports events industry, I think it's growing at a compound annual growth rate of something ridiculous like 20%. So if you're not growing 20%, that means somebody else is getting a piece of your business. So, I think it's really important that you look after your core fan who probably wants the same thing. They want the beers and they want the loaded. But there's a whole new load of fans who want something different, and you've got to start thinking about how you offer that to them. So experience is based. F1 experience, take a ticket, premiumize it, try and do it at volume, make it easy. Why can't I go onto the pitch? Why can't 500 people go onto the pitch after and have their photo taken? That's the kind of thing we did in Formula One. We just allowed people a little bit behind the scenes access, but then scaled it up and turned it into revenue. So experience-based products are a trend, and that's going that way. Food experiences as well. There's the street foods, the live food stations, the even cook your own kind of, there's all these kind of themes coming. It's the Instagrammable moment. So I think those are my two themes that I see. I see all-inclusive coming strongly.
And any final thoughts on the subject of the fusion of hospitality and fan F&B?
I think collaboration between venue and the hospitality or the culinary specialist is critical. I think people working together. I agree with what Kate said. I think a long-term partnership, there's lots of benefits to that. I think as well, as I said previously, I think investment is definitely needed on both sides. Profit share is another area to be thinking of, and that's it.
Kate?
No, that's it.
Oh, we're all done. Any questions from the audience? No?
Thank God.
All right, so it just leaves me to say thank you so much, Kate Beavan, and Lenny from Levy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh.